We have fought, suffered and sacrificed in the cause of our country's freedom.
One swallow doesn't make a summer. Hansa Mehta, a member of the Constituent Assembly, said this while conveying that while a few rare women achieved great heights and honors akin to men, they are exceptions. As of May 2022, the global average of female representation in national parliament stood at a modest 26.2%. To illustrate the stark contrast, consider Sri Lanka, where a mere 5% of parliamentary seats are occupied by women, and then look at Rwanda, where 61% of parliamentary seats are held by women. Now let us turn our gaze to India, where in the inaugural Lok Sabha, only 24 parliamentary seats were held by women. Fast forward to 2023 and the number has inched up to a mere 78 women MPs. This progress remains agonizingly slow. The Constituent Assembly of India, a body entrusted with the monumental task of shaping our nation's constitution, comprised of 389 members, of which a meager 15 were women. These 15 remarkable women came from diverse backgrounds representing different states, languages, caste, creed, class, among others. What bound them together was their unwavering dedication to the cause of Mother India. On July 18, 1947, during the Constituent Assembly debates, while speaking on equality of status and justice for women, Renuka famously said, "We are particularly opposed to the reservation of seats for women." She added, "We consider reservations to be an impediment to the growth and an insult to our very intelligence and capacity." Contradicting this perspective, Purnima Banerjee was a vocal supporter of enforced women's representation in India. After the untimely death of Sarojini Naidu and the departure of Malti Chaudhary and Vijayalakshmi Pandit from the assembly, their seats were filled by men. On the 11th of October 1949, Purnima Banerjee rose up and demanded women should at least be returned to the seats which they hold today, if not more. This call aimed to ensure that women could fill women's seat in the case of an untimely departure of the previous female occupant from the assembly. Women's representation has historically been a contested terrain. On December 19, 1946, during the Constituent Assembly debates, Hansa Mehta famously said, "This ancient land cannot attain its rightful place, its honored place in this world without the cooperation of women." The evolution of women's representation is evident through years of debate. On November 24, 1949, Ammu Swaminathan said, "Now we can say that when the Indian people themselves framed their constitution, they have given rights to women equal with every other citizen of the country." Representation was not the only cause they championed. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur vehemently opposed the inclusion of the freedom to practice religion, as she believed it could provide constitutional protection to discriminatory practices like Parda, Sati, Devadasi system, among others. She eventually became the first woman to hold a cabinet position in independent India as the health minister. The women in the Constituent Assembly were not confined to debates surrounding women's issues and representation. Dakshayani Velayudhan was the only Dalit woman elected to the Constituent Assembly. She strongly opposed a separate electorate for the scheduled caste. Often, she went against the views of B.R. Ambedkar, and in one of her addresses to the Constituent Assembly, referring to Ambedkar, she said, "His non-cooperation with the nationalistic forces is a great tragedy for the Harijans." Similarly, Begum Aizaz Rasool was the only Muslim women member in the Constituent Assembly. On May 25, 1949, during the Constituent Assembly debates, she said, "To my mind, reservation is a self-destructive weapon that separates the minorities from the majorities for all time." These women went beyond the accepted purview for women's voices. Durgabai Deshmukh was a vocal figure in the debate surrounding Hindi as the national language. Similarly, N.E. Mascarene was a vociferous speaker on federalism. Vijayalakshmi Pandit, based on her expertise, spoke on the international role of our nation. Kamla Chaudhary, Leela Roy, and Malti Chaudhary never spoke in the assembly. Nevertheless, these women assumed the leadership roles. Sucheta Kripalani ended up becoming India's first women chief minister. These remarkable women challenged the idea of gender roles. On July 22, 1947, Sarojini Naidu, known as the Nightingale of India, said, "I think that the time has come in the onward march of world civilization where there should be no longer any sex consciousness or sex separation in the service of the country." As Simone de Beauvoir eloquently put, "One is not born but rather becomes a woman." This profound quote epitomizes the long and arduous journey of Indian women. from India's first women legislator, Dr Muthulakshmi Reddy, to the current President of India, Droupadi Murmu ji, the struggle for representation has been anything but easy. On August 15, 1947, a few minutes after midnight, Hansa Mehta, on behalf of the women of India, presented the national flag to the Constituent Assembly, the first flag to fly over independent India.
In presenting this symbol of our freedom, we once more offer our services to the nation. We pledge ourselves to work for a great India, for building up a nation that will be a nation among nations.